Jai Gurudev, everybody. So, welcome back again. Today, it's very cold here in Germany. You know, it seems that winter have not departed fully, and well, there's not much happening. And there's also a lot of things happening because there's not many things that you can do when the weather is not well. It's not. It's raining and all this. Apart from that, the news here in Germany, because of the lockdown, is finished, and there's an increase of the viruses. So that's why one have to be very careful, and take the necessary precaution also. So, I'll ask Jagopal to ask your question now.
Dear beloved Guruji, it is said that we should do 16 rounds of japa every day. At the same time, it is said that it is more important to do it with your full devotion and faith. So why don't we say, do 1 hour of japa every day with all your heart, instead of all the counting?
That's an interesting question. You see, one thing is that how do you know that that one japam, one round of japam that you are planning to do, it is sincerely with all your heart, that you don't know about it. Because that evolvement into that, the mind have to completely be absorbed into your japam itself. So when we are chanting the name continuously, there's a constant practice, for what we bringing the mind into that. Because you see, when we talk about, in your question, you are saying about devotion. We can't say, yes, I'm doing this japam now with devotion. I'm doing it because, you see, what is devotion? Devotion is that single-pointed mindless focus upon the Lord Himself. And you know the state of the mind itself, how the mind keep running around. The mind is not fixed. The mind is not, it's restless. In chapter 6, verse 26 of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said, clearly how is the state of the mind. The mind is restless and unsteady. It's not focused. So it said that let the mind run, but bring it back to where it have to be. Bring it back upon the focus on the divine itself. So you see, when we are doing japam, you're rotating, you're chanting. Of course, your mind is not fully absorbed into that. Not maybe you. For you, it is easy. But even if for you it is easy, then why would the name of God be a challenge to you to chant the 16 round? We said to chant 16 round. Even if you can't chant 16 round of japam, it doesn't matter. Even if you chant 1 round, it is fine. But that constant, you see, awareness, how the mind is, the mind is jumping from one thought to the other. The state of the mind itself is restless. You hear that in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said it, that mind is restless and unsteady. This is the state of the mind, the nature of the mind, it is like that. The mind can't really focus itself. For example, japam is also a state of meditation, where you are sitting, when you close your eyes, you don't see anything else. You see only the divine itself. So that process of the mind, how it's transforming from wandering mind outside and bring it into the focus that what is the most important thing for me. You see, for a devotee, it is a constant reminder that our mind have only one focus. The mind should not be focused upon the world outside, but it should be focused upon the Lord Himself. And how we attend to that, firstly, is when we are chanting His name. We are constantly reminding that mind that He is the goal. The world is not the goal for us, but He is that goal for me. It is a constant reminder, that Bhagwan said, it is very difficult to control that mind. But with instant practice, when you continuously practice it, in chapter 12, verse 8 of Bhagavad Gita, he said it also in that same context, you see, fix your mind upon me, fix your mind upon me and let your intellect be in me, for you shall without doubt reach me. Chapter 12, verse 8, and chapter 12, verse 9, he said that even if it is impossible for you to fix your mind upon me, then do it through the yoga of practice. There he is again referred to the same verse, which what he said earlier to Arjun, in chapter 6, verse 26, he said the same thing, that mind which is restless, that mind which is continuously going away, when you sit in deep meditation, how is your mind? Your mind is not focused. The first thing is that your mind is wandering around. This is the nature of the mind, that you have to understand that mind, the moment you want to control it, it will fight back with you. And when it fight back, of course, the samskaras of the past will awake itself. All the things which is what you have done before, the mind will wander back. So this is the state of the mind. So that's why when you are doing japam, you are focusing that mind upon the divine itself, clearly saying to the mind that you are not my goal. You are not the one that I have to run behind. For example, if you're sitting in meditation, okay, and when you sit to meditation, first thing that arises inside of your mind is all maybe from past, and what you will do afterwards, there's constant flow of the mind. The mind is already wandering left, right, So in that kind of mind, very often, then you will not enjoy your meditation, you will not enjoy your sadhana, you will not enjoy your japam, because your mind is constantly in movement. Why? Because you run behind your mind. When your mind is go from here to London, you are running behind your mind to London. If your mind have run here thinking, oh, how wonderful it was, last year, we were in that beautiful holiday place, your mind run there. So you see, there's not there's not a fixed point. When that happened to let's say a devotee which is fully absorbed into his sadhana, then that devotee feel regret, not regret because it's finished, but they feel bad, But in spite of doing all this, but my mind is still wandering around. But this is how the mind gets attached. You see, one thing we see, let's analyze the mind. When we talk about the mind, what we are talking about, the mind, what does the mind mean in itself? The mind means a flow of thoughts. That's what the mind means. If the mind is running from one thing, you bring it here, but you don't have a clear focus upon what the mind should hold upon, the mind will flow again, another thought will run, the mind will again go. But you should not feel depressed, or despair into that. This is the nature of the mind, like I said. So you constantly have to remind the mind that you are the consciousness witnessing the whole game. You are not identified yourself with the mind. The moment you identified yourself with the mind or with the body, then it is not possible. So here Bhagavan in chapter 12, verse 8, he said, fix your mind upon me. Here when we analyze that part, when he said, fix your mind upon me, here he said, yes, the mind run towards the senses. So the mind understands everything which is external, material, limited. So here Bhagavan said, have an image inside of your mind. And through that image, you will center your mind, fix it upon the divine form of Krishna himself. He said to Arjuna, fix your mind upon me. Don't let your mind be fixed on the world, because the world is finite, but I'm infinite. So you focus, you continuously remind your mind, but where the mind have to be. So japam is a constant reminder of that. You see, the mind have to be focused upon something which is finite itself. Here, the mind is focusing upon the form of the Lord. It's focusing upon the image of the Lord, which is, firstly, when you close your eyes, that image must be there, instantly, without any effort. Of course, at the beginning, the effort must be, because your mind wander around, you let it go and bring it back again. But focus it upon that image of the Lord himself. Then he said, let your intellect rest in me. Here you see, the mind is focusing upon the outside, but the intellect is something more finer. The intellect is deeper, more than the mind itself. He said, let the intellect rest upon me. Here, let the intellect which rests upon the infinite itself, not the form of the outside only, but the essence of Krishna himself, which is everywhere. The omnipresence, omnipotence of God, which is embedded in everything. So that's where he said, let that intellect be in me, for without doubt you will rest in me. So here he said, when that intellect reside into the supremacy of the Lord himself, the infinite Lord himself, that mind itself will transform into divine. So the transformation of that mind itself, there will be not a single moment that Krishna is not you will not be reminded of Krishna. So then he said, if that is difficult to do, then practice. So if it is difficult if you can't fix your mind upon me, constant practice and seek me. This is important to understand when he says that. The constant practice and seek me. That means an effort must be there. Without an effort, it is not possible to fix the mind on the Lord himself. So he said, if it is difficult, because you see, the mind is continually wandering around, so then let it wander. But with the effort of bringing it back from where it is wandering, bring it back to that precise moment itself when you are sitting there and meditating. So again, it will wander. Bring it back again. So like that, continuously, if you don't run behind the mind, you bring it back again into the present moment where you're sitting in meditation and enjoying your japam and enjoying that precise moment itself. Here Bhagavan said, by constant practice, you seek me, you will get me. That effort is important. See, here again he said, japam is important also, where constantly you're chanting, but through the chanting, you're purifying your mind, you're constantly reminding the mind where it have to focus upon. Because when, according to your question, if it is just one moment I do it with pure bhakti, how do you know you have that bhakti? You can't say, You can't self-judge yourself and say, yes, I am very devoted into the divine itself, So this is from the pure ego and the laziness of not doing. That kind of, talk will say, Then Bhagavan, even chapter 10, he said, for lazy people who can't even do that, continuous practice, in chapter 12, verse 11, and he said, if you even that is not possible, then whatever you do, offer it up to me. This is the last stage. For people who can't do their japam, I said, okay, fine. Then at least at night when you sleep, before going to bed, close your eyes and say Krishna Arpanamastu. I offer everything to the lotus feet of Krishna. I offer the day itself to the lotus feet of Krishna. Actually, japam is that reminder. It's not because one person just need one time chanting. Those who have that devotion, that sincerity, that longing for the Lord Himself, a mere chanting of only one time His name, that is enough. But who have that, and such devotee, it's very rare to find. I myself, I have not yet find anyone, who have had that kind of devotion, where they think only on one time the Lord and that's it, But yet, as long as the Lord is not visible at all time, it is important to continuously remind oneself of His presence, remind oneself why we are doing japam, why our life is here, for what goal, why we are on the spiritual path, for what reason Bhagavan have remind us of His presence, what grace He have given us of that, and chanting of His name, even 16 times is nothing, even million times you will chant a day is nothing. Life itself, is not enough to praise His name. That grace that His name hold, it's amazing. Knowing that secret of Naam, one will be free. So it's not just we are chanting. Firstly, like we said, it is mechanical, it is outside, we are doing it, yes. So that the outside first, that mind, which is focused on the outside, must be purified, and must be transformed, must be changed. Because without that having its focus, without that having that aim, that Giridhari Krishna is that aim that I have to focus upon, the mind will wander around into the world back. And it is easy, the delusion of the world is easily grabbing that mind itself. So many lives, you have done that. That's why Bhagavan in this life said, enough is enough. I remind you of my name so that you can remember me. Even while leaving this plane, you should remember me. So while leaving this plane, if you remember me, you shall attain me. But like you said yesterday, you see Bharat Maharaj, how difficult it is to remember God when you have your mind attached to the world. When you attach your mind to the world, it will become very difficult. Even remembering the name of God, you let go of your duty. And once you let go of your duty, then you are lost. You are back again into the world outside. Then what have changed? Nothing have changed. So life itself is this reminder through japam itself. You see, in life you do so many things. But look at your life itself. Your life is a repetition of yesterday and day before yesterday. It's a constant repetition of the same thing. Most of the time you do the same repetition. Why you don't say, oh no, today I will not do this, I will not. Because some things are important to for you and for everybody else, you see, that repetition. Without that repetition, you will not be where you are. So, like that, Japam is also like this for the Atma, to remind itself continuously where it have to be focused and where it have to be fixed. And that is on the lotus feet of Giridhari itself, Nowhere else. That's what Japam does, So if you have faith, yes, just one name is enough. And that one name itself will create marvel. There's this beautiful story that I always tell about. One saint had his ashram, and one time somebody came to the ashram, the saint was not there, said, "My daughter is very sick, please help me." So one of the monk said to the saint, said to the man, "Write 3 times the name of Ram, 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 and clean it, write it with charcoal, clean it, and give that water to your daughter to drink. Your daughter will be fine." The man went home and did it. And of course, miraculously, by the name of Ram, by the grace of Ram, his daughter was cured. So the next day he came to say thank you, and it was very happy. So the Guru called his disciple and said, "What is this miracles you have given him?" I said, "Yes, I told him to write the name of 3 times the name of Ram and drink the water, wash it and drink the water." And when the Guru heard that, he became so sad. Somebody else will be happy. No, he became sad. And he said, "Listen, I had hope on you, but I see that you have not understand the name of Ram itself. That one name who crossed over the ocean of samsara and make one attain to the lotus feet of the Lord himself, Only one time, but here you have make him chant 3 times. So without faith you are. So the Guru said, "Now you are not my disciple, go." So you see, this story shows you, the power of name when you have faith. Only one is enough when you chant. But that faith, it's a diamond. Firstly, when the Guru sees that person, it's a rough diamond which have to be polished constantly. And the name of the Lord himself is polishing through Japam itself. So continuous chanting, continuous reminding of the name of the Lord, it is that polishing of faith. Make that faith single-pointed, and that faith fully absorbed in that loving relationship with God himself. So through that love, you understand that Japam is each breath itself. Your constant life is a Japam which is offered at the lotus feet of Srimad Narayana. So, yes, if you have faith, just chant 1 time is enough. But if you don't have faith, if your mind is still wandering around, keep chanting his name.
A key difference between Bhakti Marga and traditional lineages is the inclusion of women in initiation to become brahmacharinis and swaminis. Could you please explain why women were traditionally excluded in this lineage as well as others? And what are the spiritual reasons for the gender roles?
Actually, you see, women was never excluded. In the Hindu tradition, women is given a very important place, as mother, daughter, and wife, So it was not how, why, let's see firstly. You see, in the Mulasthanam, it's very hot. I think most of the time you see the priests, they don't wear any clothes. And for a woman, just to be there without clothes is not practical, firstly. Service in the temple was mostly reserved for men, and also men have more strength than women. Of course, when women decide something, of course they are very strong. So, but in service, you see, they were more. It's not that I would say that they were put down, but they had different role to play. Like when they have to look after the children, they have to prepare the food, for the temple and for the husbands. And the role of a man is to work and provide for his family. So the women had different work to do. So, and of course, when you're referring to being sannyas and to be swamini, all this, you see, the role of a swami in ancient time was placed on propagating Sanatana Dharma. The swami was going around from village to village, walking. Most of the time the swamis was alone walking. It's not that they had disciple walking with them. Oh, they will have one disciple walking with them. And of course, having a swamini as walking around, it's not. She can't take a man. She will have to take another woman with. So the danger of that is the defilement of being attacked by gundas, by thieves and dacoit, all these things, and being raped and all this, because you see, when people are focused so much on the outside, they are, because at that time thieves and dacoit and all this stuff was, rapists were there also, and they were doing all this kind of things. So to safeguard them, there it said, okay, you have your role model, so you are that role model itself, for society, and because of your dignity, and your softness, and your caringness, the nature of a woman itself, how she cares and how she thinks, is that emotion for not being defiled from the outside things. Then they were given a certain other works to do. And then you see in history that some of the queen were very strong queen, For example, Dashrath's wife, Kaikeyi, she, Bharat's mother, she was very fighter. And they were all. It was not that they were not. They didn't know the art of fighting. No, they were all instructed and learned people. Don't think that the queen and the rishis, Guru Mai was. They were not revered. They were not educated. No, they were well educated. They were well revered. Great respect was given to the rishi's wife. So in that, the women culture was very uplifted, and that great respect for mothers, and it was not really looking at them as just the rishi's wife. No, they were mother. That's why they said that there is 7 mothers itself. Your mother which gave you birth, the mother, the nurse, the mother, the guru itself, the mother which, Mother Earth, Mother Nature, and the cow, and there's one more I can't remember, but there's the rishi's wife also, the guru's wife also. It's considered the mother itself. So you see, in that context, women was given a very high role in society. And that respect which people were giving to the Guru Mai, it was similar to having the respect for a Swamini and a sannyasi, And of course, with time, the corruption of the mind, it's people forget about that, and also more power, then they become very, let's say in the Middle Age, you will see that the manpower were more stronger, because also you see, like I said, the gurus will go walking, not just sitting in the ashram. Sometimes the ashram will be attacked and they will have to run away. So just to protect that, the woman was given different roles also. And of course, like you said, now it is different time. And yes, I took that decision through the blessing, of course, of Mahatar Babaji and Sri Ramanujacharya also. So that have to be changed. So it's not there's an equality of things, but yet we have to have respect also. That it's not only the body that matter, but it's also the Atma. They hold something deeper inside of them, because that have been given to them, and this is their dharma, their duty to do in this time. Also nowadays they can travel around, without any fear, and of course people are more respectful wherever they see a woman having such a status, because it's very difficult for a swamini, somebody, even as a brahmacharini or sannyasin, that when the world see that nowadays, they have great respect for that, because they know how difficult it is to let go of that world and then to anchor themselves upon the spiritual path itself. So people give that respect, So it's much easier now for them to travel around, for them to do a different kind of work also. So that's why in Bhakti Marga you see, but there is brahmacharini, there is swamini, so there's even rishika, so like that.
How would you describe Vaikuntha, and what exactly does it mean for our soul? Is it the end of the soul's journey?
Yes. Vaikuntha, how I will describe, is a place where you go and you never come back. It is a place where you used to be, and because of desire to incarnate, to come back here, to experience this world, so you manifest, you have come, and due to that you have created certain karmic things, but you have stayed here, and you have claimed that this is your home, and you have stuck here, and so Vaikuntha is actually your real home, where you were before you come to this reality. And this is the place where the Atma long to be. The Atma don't long to be in this world. If you ask your Atma, what do you want? Your Atma will tell you frankly, I want to go back home. But if you ask your mind what you want, then your mind will say, no, I want this world. I want this reality, because this is a reality that the mind get accustomed to. Through many lives, you have gone accustomed to certain things, and that these things which your mind have got accustomed, that have become your reality. Due to that accustomed to this reality, that's why I have bound you to take endless birth itself. But through the grace of Bhagwan himself, he sent saints, sadhus, he sent the guru to remind you that this is not the reality. The reality is not to be attached to this world, is to attach to him. And when your mind gets attached to him, you're pulled back again to where you come from. Because before this whole creation happened, you dwell into his cosmic body itself. By dwelling into his cosmic body, you are in Vaikuntha. That is why in that verse itself, in Bhagavad Gita chapter 12 verse 8, at the end he said, without doubt you shall be in me. He didn't say you attain me, without doubt you shall be in me. Because within his cosmic body is also the realm of Vaikuntha itself. So you dwell everything dwell inside his cosmic body. So Vaikuntha is that place where eternal bliss, how Bhagavan is that eternal bliss. He's not, go through change of mood, He doesn't go like one moment you are very happy, the next moment you are depressed, the next moment you are crying, and so on, But he stayed in the state of eternal bliss, Satchidananda. What you understand is Ananda, But his bliss is eternal. The bliss of the soul is to attain back to this state of Satchidananda itself, And in Vaikuntha, once through his grace, but when you enter that, you are beaming that state of everlasting bliss itself. So, what was the question again?
How would you describe Vaikuntha? What does it mean for the soul, and is it the end of the soul's journey?
So yes, because once you go home, I don't think you want to come back again here. You have a whole experience of this reality itself, So once you have tasted this reality, you know what? It don't give you that eternal pleasure. How Bhagavan, when you taste him, that nectar, that pleasure that it gives you, that this world will never give you. And this is the blissful state of the Atma itself, when the mind is focused upon the Atma, when the mind is fully, firstly, that mind is fully absorbed into the Atma, and the Atma is fully absorbed into Krishna himself, That is another bliss.
Dear Guruji, in some satsangs, you clearly explain that it's better to keep negative people away. But I have seen that we mainly judge someone as negative to justify our intolerance and dogmatism. How do we differentiate between someone truly negative versus we can't tolerate because of our own problems?
Well, this is two different things. There is people which is negative, the way they think, the way they act, the way, the association with them itself is completely negative. You don't feel peace, you don't feel happiness with them. But this is nothing to do with you. But if you are judging somebody, the prejudice that you are better than them, that is a different matter. Then it is not that they are negative, then you are negative. It is through your negativity, your projection upon somebody else, which happen very often. So both people exist, The prejudice that somebody is, that someone is has a negative, because you know that person, how that person is, and the judgment that you project upon that person, you call that person negative. Then in reality, it's not that person which is negative. You are negative. Because of your negativity, you are calling that person negative. This is majority of the people think in that way. And that happened also, sadly, very much on the spiritual path. Because in the spiritual path, very often people think that they are too perfect and that everybody else is not good. They are bad people. No, it's just that the people don't understand you the same way you don't understand them. So you project your understanding upon them, then you call them negative. But then there is bad people, which is not bad people, but I would say ignorant people, which due to their stupidity of their mind, they don't understand anything. They think that they understand, but they're completely dumb. And because of their stupidity, their mind is completely crazy. And because they are crazy, here I'm not crazy to be in the mental hospital, I'm crazy to be in this world itself. So they are poison in themselves, and for them, they are poisoning everybody which is around also. So associating with them, you will get poison. So that's why best is to keep away from crazy people. Keep away from poison people. Keep away from their own negativity. So you see, the two different. One is that you yourself project upon the others your own negativity, how you view things. That means you have to start looking at yourself firstly, you know, before start judging others, you know. And other people, automatically you feel it, you know, the energy don't, you know, they're completely tamsic. You know, this, you can't even smell them, you can't even be near to them, because you know the state of the mind, how it is from this. You know. So then keep completely, cut all connection from this kind of people, because it will not profit you, and it will not profit them because they are completely deluded. They will not change anything. You know, so this is a two kind. So, Jai Gurudev.